Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to IBM Alumni Series. Thank you for participating in this talk, and we are glad to have you all here. Currently, we have around 200 participants, and while we are waiting for the rest to join, we will start this talk. First of all, let me introduce about IBM. So this talk is made by IBM. International Business Management is a program in Petra Christian University under Faculty of Business and Economics. And under the faculty, we have Management Department, and IBM program is part of that department. We have all our courses in English. Okay. And we offer a Bachelor in Management program with the major of International Business Management, totally conducted in English. Okay. Our vision is to create an integrated international business professionals for Indonesia. And about this talk, okay, Alumni Talk is one of IBM program that prepares our fourth-year students for their first job. Okay, so we invite alumni from various industries to share about their role, their industry, workplace, and experience. And this program has allowed our students to peek inside the role and industry even before they enter. And we hope this results in an informed decision on where to dedicate their sweat and tears. Okay. The current series, however, is different. With the title Riding the Covidigital Wave, we invite alumni to talk about their industry in relation to the current pandemic and also digitalization. Today we'll discuss about whether digitalization is the way to go. And in the next few weeks, we'll discuss about restaurant and the new normal. The week after that, we'll discuss about entrepreneurs' do's and don'ts, and we'll close the series discussing about innovation in visual communication industry. Please follow up the other series, and we hope that they'll be useful for you and perhaps your business. Okay, so for the topic today, the topic is digitalization the solution? We will answer some key points. How can we understand Andre will help us to understand the current situation, and then to discuss if digitalization can help businesses, and then also see how to formulate the next step. Okay, our speaker for today is Albertus Andre Sujarwo. He is an alumni of IBM from batch 2011. Albertus is a consultant at Roland Berger Southeast Asia Consulting, where he focuses on strategy and transformation for transportation, industrial, public sector, as well as FMCG and retail. Prior to joining Roland Berger, he was a consultant at Accenture, where he mainly served resources group clients, and a senior associate at PwC Consulting. He obtained Master of Science Financial Management from University of Birmingham and Bachelor of Economics from Petra Christian University. And as for me, I will be the moderator for this talk. My name is Ruth Srininta Tarigan, and currently I serve as the head of IBM program. It's an honor to meet you all today. Okay, so it has been mentioned in the chat some etiquette and rules for this talk. The admin will unmute every participant during the session. However, if you have questions, you can raise your hand, or you can also ask in the chat and address it to everyone. So now, let's talk. Andre, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so in relation to the current pandemic, we know what has happened. Economy is slowing down. There is a PSBB, and then even with the large-scale social restriction, we still see the cases has not, go down, but still go up. People think that this is not yet the peak. But however, Indonesia wants to start opening the economy. I think Indonesia, they want to protect the people, but in the meantime, they know that we also need to open the economy. Otherwise, people may leave, but we don't have the economy. Okay, so I would really want to see how this affect business. In my experience in the education sector, okay, people think that we are affected the less. Okay, we still have students, we still can work digitally. I think all of us or some of us ever read in the news that there are moms asking to reduce their tuition fee because they think the students do not enjoy the facilities, and learning happens at home with the help and supervision from parents. It is as if the job is shifted to parents, but parents still have to pay full. But what they don't understand as an insider in the industry, okay, we are also struggling with change. We need to adapt not only in delivering lecture, but also tailor our material so that our students can still learn well. Each course has different method, and we are doing trial and error. Okay. Correct. Well, education, it's an old industry, and it has been slow to change. It has been thinking that digitalization cannot replace human interaction, network opportunities that happens only in campus, let alone facilities that can only be found in campus, such as library. Okay, but now we are facing disruption because everyone needs to stay at home. So now we are facing with that digital disruption. We can offer course online, that's what we are doing. But then the question is, how can then we differentiate our courses or our offering from other offering from university? Okay, yes. How can we deliver our value digitally? Previously, we rely on experience, campus facilities, our network, but now, okay, and then previously the competition is probably local or even national, but now it seems like, every university in the world starts offering their course online. So we think now the competition is become wider. It's not only local, but also international. Okay, so my question is, just to help us to understand what is happening. Can you tell us, in your experience dealing with companies in Indonesia, okay, how has COVID and also this large-scale social restriction affect businesses and economy in Indonesia?
Okay. Well, thank you for the questions. So, first of all, I would like to say thank you for the participants for joining for this session. And to answer the question, I would love to see it on the perspective of what is the main concern at the moment for both private sectors and the government, which is health and the safety of each of the citizens. So as that health is becoming the major concern or top priority for businesses and government, so business and government took several measures that have impacted in several ways that we have typically enjoyed. I think the first and the most obvious, for workers, employees, and business people, is the implementation of work from home. So at the moment, based on the latest data that I got, based on the Dinas Tenaga Kerja Jakarta, as of 30th of May, that there are actually more than 4,000 companies in Jakarta implementing the work from home, which accounts around 1 million workers being forced to work from home. So obviously it's the step taken by the business, or taken step forced by the government, because they would love to restrict the spread of the virus, because they believe that by retaining themselves, staying at home, they can contain the virus itself. So how it affects in business in general. So for the businesses, in general, of course, they have some disruptions. Based on the survey coming from Wall Street Journal, there are actually two impacts for this work from home. I think the most benefit coming from the work from home is that people don't need to commute, because typically we need to commute to our place of work or school, or place that we usually go during the weekdays, and it actually saves them time. So they can actually, by staying at home, they can save the transportation time between from their place to the workplace and they save it and maybe doing something else. But on the other hand, they have also faced like the main challenges. Like I think the topest one coming from the survey is actually seeing that the infrastructure that they have at home is not as efficient as those at the office. It means like perhaps like typically when we work at the office, we have a quite reliable internet connection. We have all of those facilities that support our business activities. But like at home, for example, maybe you don't have a good stable internet connection, and also like maybe you don't have any supporting office facilities that you typically need on daily basis, and it becomes like the challenges at the moment, like for the workers. Let's put aside on that area of the how we work, but I think the major concern is also in regards to the supply chain, the end-to-end process coming from the raw material to the customer itself. As in Indonesia, for example, like 20%, 24% of Indonesia's total trade in 2019 is actually coming from China. And the topest one is actually for commodities such as like aluminum, for fruits and vegetables. So can you imagine when China was actually implementing like lockdown back then in March, February, March, it also affects like the flow of raw materials coming to not only to Indonesia but also to other countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore as well. So it affects like how companies need to think about the reorder point, and how whether they need to think about like whether they should find another suppliers, and like not only about that one, because like in March and April we are actually reaching toward Idul Fitri, which is a big festive in Indonesia. Like the government also put an agenda that the stability of the price of the raw materials of the foods is secured. Like for example, like the price of chili, like in Indonesia, like the producer of chili is very highly concentrated, like in Java, in Central Java and Eastern Java, and Sumatra is only in West Sumatra. And the rest, like they also like import those goods, like for example onions as well. So can you imagine like those kind of disruptions when there is also a disruption in the sense like the supplier is getting reduced. Not only that, coupled with the number of like other transportation are being reduced as well. In terms, I can say that the number of flights like Indonesia has been reduced by 10 times, and the occupancy of the flight itself is reduced by 50% at least. And how it impacts actually? Well, the airlines itself, as we know, is not taking only about the passengers but also the goods. There are actually other type of goods that are being carried by plane, not by typical trucks or vessel. Like those goods are typically, for example, like high valuable goods like electronics, like pharma, as well as like some vaccine, and also like perishable goods, like for example like meats and also fruits as well. And maybe you can link up like why there is sushi air, because sushi air is carrying a lobster, and why lobster needs to be carried by airplane. So I think that answers the question, because like those goods are easily to get rotten, and that's why they need to be carried by airplane. And since like the number of scheduled flights are also being reduced, so it will impact like in terms of the supply in the future as well. But like and the last impact that I would love to say is that based on the estimate coming from the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce or Kamar Dagang Indonesia, there is approximately like 15 million people or workers are being laid off or being cut off, which is very 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 sad in economy, that the number of unemployment is getting higher, and also that there is also high probability that the number of poor citizens are also increasing, and the purchasing power coming from the society is getting reduced. And as we all know, like in Jakarta, like starting from next week, office is starting opening up. But like seeing after seeing that those impacts, and also the current situation, so where are actually we are? So in terms of daily cases growth, Indonesia compared to other Southeast Asian countries is also still growing at daily cases growth around 2 to 3%. So the number of new cases of COVID is still there, and also the development stage of the COVID itself, like Indonesia, is not yet mature. which means that all of the total cases that are still pending cases that is either being resolved or in the sense that those people are infected considered as healthy or diseased. So in terms of development stage, Indonesia currently still at a stage of 20 to 40%. There are still many people are waiting for the answer. I mean, like the infected people. So as a result, like when the business would like to open up for resuming their businesses in the coming weeks, I think they should also put the health and safety concern as the top priority, and that's where the innovation or that how we actually can ensure that the business can run well, and I think that innovation will be put there as well.
Okay. So how the economy and the business can run well in the same time still put health of the workers as a priority, right? So
yes, that's correct.
So with all the changes that you have mentioned, like people start work at home, well, I imagine not all of them will start working immediately. Maybe some will take shift. So and I also heard that maybe life will resume to normal once they got the vaccine, but then it's still like 1 or 2 years. That's very fast. In Indonesia, maybe even longer than that. So, and then you say before that there was a change in terms of supply chain, and also if the workers are less, I imagine the operations of the businesses also change. Yeah. So in terms of, if you in your professional opinion, in the next 6 months, how will the business and the economy, roughly look like in this new normal?
Well, in the new normal itself, like I cannot really say that much because like we're actually at the moment where we actually at the really clean set, because we have never experienced this one before in the past or in the past 10 years, because like the hardest hit that we got, like actually the US recession in 2008, and it's actually completely different and it affects everyone globally. And perhaps like what you have projected at the beginning of the year, like any target that you have at the end of this year, you may not be able to realize it. And in the next 6 months, of course, there will be like some hits, like some turbulence, some adjustment, and all coming from the businesses in terms of like goal setting as well. And I believe that the many companies are actually trying to ensure that they have a good liquidity, like a good working capital, like to ensure that they have a good cash flow to run the business well, and such since it becomes like also one of their agenda, they will do some kind of like efficiency programs across all of the businesses. They would love to also to revisit like which products or which business portfolios which are not like making money, which are actually like making really small margin, and also there's like a customer shift. Like for example, like this product was actually quite a boom like prior to COVID, but like after COVID, this product is actually not performing really well, and they should rethink whether they should really continue with this product or not, because there is like a customer changing behavior as well. So I think the business have a lot of agendas to think about the next 6 months, and the outcome of the of it is actually like is how fast the business can react and how effective or efficient they can be in the future.
Okay, you mentioned before about consumers. I would like to address what you just said, review portfolio, the products and the offering to the consumers. But before I ask that, you said that many consumers, as there are many people lose their jobs, so I'll say the income is a change, so it changed. But I also want to touch about how this pandemic has changed our behavior apart from income. So because I think people start buying everything online, from oranges to gadget. I mean, I buy diaper for my girl, for my daughter, like online, and it saves me time, and delivered to my house. So this is something that I want to be doing, in the future. So in your opinion, is that the trend? Like people will shift to online?
I believe like going online on the online market has been quite a trend in the past years, but like the COVID itself like make it like more urgent, so people willingly or not, they will try to leverage the online platform. But like in the future, like I think it depends on the category of the product itself. Like if the online platform can give the customer experience expected from the client itself, or from the perspective of the customer, I think they will pursue it on the online. For example, like perhaps like when you're trying, if you're considering to buy a shoes, for example, when you're buying shoes, you love to see whether it's like fit or not and so on. But if the technology can provide, so I think it will be able. And currently there are also like a technology actually answering those kind of needs. They use the virtual reality. I mean, like the concept is pretty similar with the Insta Story filter. So it's actually try to use the camera to see whether the shoes will look good on your feet, or like the dress will look good on your body, or even like some makeups. Like Sephora is also implementing that one. But I'm not really sure which territory has implemented that one. But like they're trying to answer the customer experience aspect through technology, like to ensure that the customers still buy from the market.
Okay, so it's not every product then.
Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, like for example, like property. I mean, like property is completely different. I mean, like you need to see it. You need to see it on the property itself.
I think we have covered quite a lot for this past 25 minutes or so. I would like to ask if the audience have any questions or any response to what Andre has said. Feel free if you want to share your experience. How has it affected your industry? How have your industry has been evolved since the pandemic? How has it affected you as a consumer maybe? Yeah, so please raise your hand, or you can also ask in the chat. Okay, so we have a question from Pago. Actually, Pago is our lecturer. Welcome, Pago. We are really glad to have you here. Yeah, sure, Pago. I think you can go first.
Oh, thank you, Ibu Ruth, and hello to Albertus. How are you? Long time no see.
Hi, sir. I'm good. How are you?
Long time no see. It's good to talk to you again. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for the invitation to Ibu Adeline and all the rest of the IBM lovely faculties. Just a couple of sharing about. You're talking about the changes in consumer behavior, as well as that's on the demand side, and you're also talking about the supply side, the shops and all that. What is significantly happening around the world is basically the problem on the issue on social distancing. Even with the vaccine coming available, we are not sure how powerful and how reliable. But that set aside, the social distancing is going to be a big issue. So a lot of retail shops and so forth in Singapore, we are seeing them started to close. And just 2 days, we have about 3 to 4 1 Michelin star top Japanese restaurants. They are closing for good. They're not coming back. So what is telling us is that all these shops, they are not, people are not going back to dine in. And in high-end restaurants and also in other mass shopping center, they're going to have more control. So then, both consumers, there'll be a big portion of consumers and also retailers who wants to survive will be forced to think about digitalization, not as an option, but for survival. And that's getting very serious. So just last week, Singapore government is creating 1,000 jobs for people to help the hawker center, how to create their products onto the different people like GrabFood, Panda, etc. for free, because the charges are quite high. So the government is absorbing the cost. and 1,000 people are new jobs created to replace a lot of people losing their jobs. So we are seeing this trend, and that is also an important part, that how many of the regional governments are going to step forward and have the kind of a resource in terms of manpower, in terms of money to actually put in. So that is quite an interesting phenomenon that we are seeing over in Singapore, and they're already starting to recruit people into this area. So it's kind of forcing both what we call the supply shock and demand shock to look beyond, and they have to think about how to shake hands, how to get back together. So for example, like Ibu Ruth, I think she might be a permanent online diapers buyer, since she has a busy job. So whether she's at home or in Petra is no indifferent. So this would be a very good avenue to consider, so long the supply is reliable, the pricing is good enough. Well, why not? And there'll be more consumers like Ibu Ruth, that will have to consider in the long run. So those retail shops that Ibu Ruth and others used to visit will probably have to rethink, because they're going to lose that bunch of customers. So that's something to share.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Go. Maybe Andre wants to add or
that's actually part of the phenomenon. I mean, like I would love to see it also, like on the perspective coming from how responsive of the Singapore government itself. Like I think the reason why the Singapore government can like reopen like the job available to the market like quite massively as well is because also the government also provide a program through Skills Future Singapore, if I'm not mistaken, is actually try to reskill and upskill about like the employees like in Singapore. Like it's actually one of the government program in regards to like lifelong learning, and it's actually trying. I mean, like I don't know in the future, but it's like Thai government is also considering to have that one as well. Like Indonesia, it's similar to Indonesia. It through Kartu Pintar atau Kartu Prakerja is quite similar, but like I don't know whether our government is that responsive to address the unemployment issue, in the sense that as I mentioned that there will be like around like 15 million people as estimate like to be laid off. I mean, they need to be reskilled, to be upskilled as well in terms of what they can contribute in the future in terms of the job market, how they can be suitable on the demand coming in the future. So I think that's like a good sharing point coming from Mr. Go, that is not only that the demand side that being affected, but also the supply side, and also like in terms of the workers itself. It's a good perspective.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Go, thank you, Andre. We have two more questions. I think we will let one question before we continue to the next agenda, because we still have two. Okay, Stephen.
Hello guys, how are you?
Hi Stephen, how are you? I'm good.
Hi Stephen.
Hello Ibu Ruth. Hi Pak Go as well. So just a couple of sharing from me, right? As you might aware, I'm in the FMCG business as well. I say that this pandemic actually forcefully cut down a lot of unnecessary layer that we might have before. So business need to change as well, shift their paradigm. If let's say before they were in the B2B kind of like style, they need to actually go towards B2C. If you see couple of the last weeks or so in the Instagram, right? Before this pandemic, how can you easily get kind of like a ribs or a beef to be cooked at your house, just like when you dine out in the famous restaurant in Surabaya, in the famous like Japanese restaurant in Surabaya. So this is like kind of the things that business need to shape out. They also need to be careful on the supply side because of like this pandemic actually closed down, like you said, Ray, in regards of the like flight as well, in terms of like how they do their custom. I think custom is actually doing kind of like harden their border as well because of this pandemic, because they do not want to actually get trapped not only into the movement of the people but also the movement of the goods. But then we need to also remember that government policy, whether it's fiscal or monetary, is also important, right? So I think today our rupiah actually gets strengthened a lot with pressure dollar, and then our capital market is actually trying to force back to 5,000 mark. So I think like this is the good indicator for us to keep an outward looking of this pandemic, even though we might think that there will be a second wave comes, like we can see in Korea after they open, there is a second wave, like perhaps you can say that quote unquote this is like a third wave. So, but then like I think we have a good outlook forward, so we need to keep positive so that we can all rebound from this pandemic.
Yeah, I quite agree. Like coming from Stephen's perspective, in a sense, like we need to really see on the not only from demand but also from the supply is becoming quite a major concern. But like in the future, I believe that the outlook should I mean, like we can be optimistic that the future can be bright, but like we need to be precautious as well.
Okay, so I would like to ask for the next. You mentioned about change in the change in the offering, what to offer to customers. Do you have any idea or any framework that businesses can help businesses to think about how to tailor the right product to the consumers?
Well, yeah. Since like the topic of today's session is about digitalization, and like to answer how digitalization can actually help, like to address your problems at the moment. So I think I can share a bit about like a digital methodology which is quite commonly used in a startup, not only in startup but also like tech-driven companies, but also in other industries like for example in financial services and also FMCG. So like the thing is about design thinking. If you have heard of it, it's a methodology that is a human-centered approach to innovation, which tries to achieve customer or user needs, business visibility, and technology viability. So like the intersection, like about like the design thinking, there are three things to consider. First is like about the consumer desirability, or whether like the product itself will meet to the customer need, and also whether it is like a business can it be like feasible to do it. I mean, like can the business provide the solution, provide the product, has the capability as well. And also like the last part is about the technology, whether that it requires like high technology to produce it, or perhaps like there is another technology that can support to produce this kind of product or solution coming from the customer. And design thinking itself is actually an iteration process coming from the beginning of the stage, which is to empathize the customer, and then you help them to define like what is actually the problems or the complex problem coming from the customer itself. Like for example, like at the beginning, you develop a persona coming from the customer, and you ask them about like the journey of daily life of the potential customer or set of target market. Then you help to define their problems and also try to ideate like what is the possible solutions. Then you develop a prototype. That's actually the next stage. At the end, then you can test. This kind of process is actually an iteration process. And if you would love to learn about design thinking, I think it's a good thing. You can go to Coursera or other online basis. They have like plenty of resources about design thinking, and it's really beneficial, to be honest. Like for the business itself, and like I think I can share like some of the benefits coming of the design thinking itself. Like I think the first, it help business to get better understanding and broader understanding itself. Coming from the voice of the customer and the complexity of the customer, they can understand those kind of things. And second is like business is allowed to find the best tailored approach a best approach of solution to the problems coming from the customer itself. And the third one is actually a survey conducted by another like leading consulting firm that actually can help like business revenue by 10%, like around 10%, and based on the IBM, like the hardware software producer. So design thinking is actually helps the business to deliver market delivery faster by twice, and also like improve the team efficiency by 75%. So this kind of methodology, which is like a good methodology to help you like to think about like how actually I can come up with a product or perhaps like set of solutions coming from the concern, coming from the market. For example, like whether you want to reassess your business portfolio, your product, whether your product still answers the needs coming from the customer, you can try to use this methodology to revisit whether the portfolio of business that you have is doing well, not doing well, and how you should improve it in the future. I think this is kind of an effective tool as well.
Thank you very much, Andre. We have participants queuing to ask questions. I think we should let them ask question first. Okay,
Sure.
I would like to invite Riris.
I want to ask, how do you see the improvement of the telecommunication industry, especially the internet speeds, and how Indonesia will adapt, like how soon Indonesia will adapt so that people, like the new normal will be soon be effective, immediate. I mean, as effective as possible, because in industry we need this, like this is as the basis of the digitalization before like everything comes to effective. That's what I want to ask.
In regards to the questions, like I think I'm not in a very effective position, like to answer, because I'm not coming from I'm not coming from a telco provider. I'm not an internet provider. But what I can share you is actually seeing from how Indonesia position on the other countries. Like I think I have like a data showing that the world digital competitiveness itself, like for in Indonesia. So the IMD has actually published World Digital Competitiveness ranking in 2019, and Indonesia actually at that time ranked around like 56 globally, and in Southeast Asia, that Indonesia itself like still like behind from Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, and Philippines, in the sense that the infrastructure itself, like I can say, not only coming from the infrastructure, but also coming from the human capital or the knowledge itself, like to adopt digitalization and the R&D or scientists doing the innovation through digitalization itself. Indonesia is still way behind, but like in terms of like in the future, how it actually will go, it actually depends again on the penetration first of the internet itself, like the mobile user. Currently, the Indonesia internet penetration is still, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's still like below 70%, around 70%, and the mobile phone user is still low. It's like just slightly above 60% for the mobile phone user. So I mean, like so. Not only specifically mentioning that the elderly people are not tech savvy, but also perhaps like there are set of like citizens who are not adopting or using mobile phones. So yeah, I think in terms of that, to see how digitalization can strive, I think there are things to do. Like one of the pillars that we need to do is also the digital infrastructures, and also like the adoption is coming from the citizens. Like compared to South Korea, the mobile phone adoption is already 95%. So almost everyone is using smartphones. I mean, sorry, not mobile phone, but smartphones. So it seems like everyone is connected to the internet, and it seems that they can leverage more on the digitalization products.
Thank you, Andre. I think I hope it answers your question. I would like to welcome one more questions. After that, we will, touch on the next point of discussion. Sumedo, one of our alumni. Welcome, Sumedo.
Okay, so let's start with the bad news first. Here's the thing, right? Since Corona, I think earlier this January, it's not really affecting the whole transportation industry up until this March. This March, I think some of the companies like Maspion, not really most, but I think 2 or 3 of our clients went bankrupt. And of course, like certain types of logistics, like the one with specialists in transporting their goods, the ones who went bankrupt also went bankrupt. And of course, around the around the edges and the other islands of Indonesia, our industry also have been affected, but not really as much, because most of my clients at the moment are medical instruments, medical inventories, equipment and stuff, such as something like this, alcohols, infusions, and so on. So overall, the whole like food industry and so on, all affected except the medical industry around March. So yeah, and that's actually bad. For the good thing, however, is currently some of them are recovering, but they kind of miss the Lebaran. But because they miss the Lebaran, they also have recovered some of their allowances from paying their paying the salaries of their staffs. Instead, they pull it off. They have the stamina to recover later, like around this month. So overall, that's that.
So I think that's a good sharing, in the sense that it confirms like the trend that I personally see, that the logistic is not that affected much. I mean, like it also can be generalized that it can the logistic is doing okay. I mean, like with the new toll roads now, like across Java, upcoming toll road like in 2022 in Sumatra, across Sumatra, it will help like the logistic businesses really well.
Thank you, Sume, for the sharing. And okay, we have one question from Josie, which I think is the interest for most of the participants here. It's about then how students can adapt with the change. But I'm gonna ask that later, because I think we have some discussion points. Okay, so just briefly, so do you think digitalization is the solution then?
So I think whether we like it or not, I mean, digital products or technology has been an important thing that the business need to consider in the future on performing their activities. There are many types of digital products that we have, coming from, like, for example, seeing from the automatic processing, cloud, and other digital products. But now the urgency matters comes in. I mean, like, whether we like it or not, for those businesses, for example, who are actually doing everything paper-based, but now since everyone cannot go in to the office and they need to stay at home, so of course they need to have the paperwork to be uploaded on the cloud, to be accessed by everyone very efficiently, effectively as well. So it pushed the business to adopt technology. But what kind of technology that they need to have? They need to also assess, like, what part of their business operations that being affected much, that becomes a challenge for the business to operate on daily basis. How to actually to streamline the operations coming from the end to end. So if you're asking me whether the technology is digitalization is actually the solution, it helps. Whether we like it or not, it actually helps you not to only to understand like the demand, but also helps you to operate it nicely as well, and more seamlessly, more efficiently as well. Because efficiency has been a big agenda for businesses in the past years, especially in the FMCGs. Like it's been quite agenda. And with the coming of COVID, I mean, they will put this one also one of the top priorities.
Okay. But you're saying it helps. You're saying also it's urgent and it should be top priorities. But assess which part of the business needs to be digitalized.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, well, for the next step, I think like for the businesses, like whether they really need this technology or not. So I think they start like first to assess like the needs, like what are actually the current situation, what's the expectation, is the technology important or not, or is this technology still relevant in the next 5 years or not. So actually you assess like the needs itself of this digitalization. And second of all is actually you need to calculate the cost and benefit, whether you implement this platform actually brings you more benefit or is actually just having a lot of cost in the future. So you need to calculate a good TCO or total cost of ownership, like along the journey, how much the cost that you need to have coming from the expenditure into the operational activities. And also like you need to have a good effective planning when you want to implement the technology, because implementing technology sometimes it's not like when you want to have it today and tomorrow it's there, but it's actually a journey. You need to also like to see to have a good change management team saying that okay, we are actually doing it differently, and to react and to see from the leadership what is the tone from the leadership, whether they want to embrace the change or not. Also from the employees itself, like are they ready or not, do they have the skills or not, and also like whether they would love to proceed with that one. So I think there are a lot of good planning in terms of like when business starts thinking about to implement a digital solution.
Okay, so skillful individuals. I think this may touch with what one of our student questioned. I'll just say it here. I think it was in the chat. Okay. With the recent global pandemic, we have seen that business has changed, and only those who adjust can go through this pandemic. From a student perspective, I would like to ask on what would be your suggestions to all of us here who are university students and also high school students who are still, doing their study. What will be your suggestion for us in the near future? Do you think there will be some skills demand that are changing, which maybe can help all of us here that are students to prepare ourselves in facing this unemployed fear when they graduate? Okay. Yeah. Do you also think that business schools or in general education should also focus on take their time in thinking how to produce graduates that are ready? So it's also asking whether university should produce a graduates that are ready to step in the world that are uncertain right now.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. I think it's really relevant to the majority of the audience here. So I've actually accelerated like one of the data coming from the World Economic Forum and doing study with Roland Berger as well. Basically, like in the future, the top 3 skills required like for the workforce. First is about the cognitive abilities, or your abilities to about thinking, about like reading and also maths, and those cognitive thinkings is really important. And second is system skill. So system skill is actually how you can provide recommendation, like how can you actually come up with something. And the third one is about complex problem solving. So how actually can do good reasoning, and then you combine it with system skill, like how you actually can deliver a solution. Because like what we face at the moment, that the change is not increasing, but it's the change is also the change is also dynamic. I mean, it's not that the demand is increasing, but it keeps changing. I mean, like the situation now, it may not be relevant in the next 2 or 3 years, and it seems like the technology also improves and accelerate the businesses as well. So like the needs as well on those core areas also important. So let's set aside that for example, like your ability to master cloud and things like that is just like a tool, because cloud and for example like coding, something like that is just like a mean for you to get to solve the thing. But like the core itself, like the the behind thinking is more important, in the sense like you have a good cognitive skills, system skills, complex problem solving, and based on the estimate, like in around 2020s, like 36% jobs require this kind of skill, like the complex problem solving alone, like combined with the cognitive abilities and system skills, like it counts like more than 60%. So like your ability to see a problem, to deduce problem, to solve it, to give recommendation is really important. I mean, those are like in my own opinion, it's like a lifelong skill. So it's like a versatile skill that you actually can apply it like in a wide array of jobs. I think in every jobs it will require this kind of skills.
Okay, that's interesting. You were a student and now you're a professional, and you say that those cognitive thinking, system skill, and complex problem solving indeed. But if you were a student, if you can imagine way back when you were a student, how did you get this skill?
So like this skill,
or how can you assess yourself whether you have this skill and whether you have to improve in a certain aspect of these skills?
Okay. Yeah, well, this skill is not coming like where it's not like you learn it today and you get it tomorrow. I mean, it's just a long journey process. It's a continuous process. Like for example, like because I'm a business student, so I did a lot of business case, like a case study as well. It actually helps. It actually really helps, like to see what actually the problems, what is actually the solutions, and thanks to IBM as well, when I was there were like a sufficient number of case studies. But I also like keeps practicing case studies like up until now, because I'm working in a consulting business. It's about like problem solving. It's about like having problems that seems like quite vague, in the sense like not really clear, that you have to define it first, then you try to solve. Because sometimes like the problem is not like the problem is A. It's not sometimes it's not being explicitly given that A is the problem. Sometimes like it's just like around the bush, and then you find, okay, this is actually the core problem. There's actually this kind of skill can be developed through a lot of case studies, but perhaps like other people may have like another experience in developing this kind of skills. But like in my humble opinion, like I gain it the most when I am able to do like the case study.
We have 2 questions, and I'm sorry to say that this will be the last question for everyone. I will ask Laura if you can unmute, or the admin can unmute Laura, so Laura can ask her question.
Hi, Miss.
Hi, Laura. Laura is our
Hello,
current
Laura.
student in IBM.
Hi for Andre as well.
Hello.
So, I actually wanted to ask, related to the safety of digitalization.
Yeah.
So how secure should a digitalized system be? Because I am asking this in consideration of the recent case of the hacktivist called Anonymous that exposed Trump.
Yeah.
Since it is still hacking and most likely an invasion of privacy, but at the same time, it uncovered unpunished crime. So I just wanted to hear your opinion on how secure should a website or app or any form of digital platform be? Is abiding to the bare minimum enough? And thank you so much for doing this talk with us.
Okay, well, that's a really good question, because like what you mentioned at the moment is that the cyber security is actually one of the pillars, like a good digital environment in Indonesia. If I can share with you that Indonesia currently is based on the Cyber Security Index in 2019. Indonesia currently in global rank 41, and in Asia it ranked 9. And the toughest one in Asia is actually Singapore and Malaysia. So what actually cybersecurity and this data tells us? So cybersecurity helps confidence for business to do this digitalization, and also it boosts customer confidence at the same time. Because like what we are afraid of is that when we put our data in the internet and the cybersecurity, that there is cybersecurity attack, of course, like your privacy or private data being absorbed and taken, and to be used for other purposes, and that's the last thing that you want to do with digital products. And I believe that having a good and secured digital system is really necessary. But like in what extent it actually gives back to different industry. For example, in a financial service, of course, you need to have the best and the world-class cybersecurity that you can have, because it relates to money, public money, your personal data, and second of all, is also coming from telecommunication. Believe it or not, like in a single chip of your telecommunication that you have, it really stores like a lot of data. Because when you register your mobile phone number, you also submit your identity number or nomor KTP. It actually links up to any kind of data, like in other sectors. Because also like your phone number, especially your mobile phone number, also link up to other digital products. For example, when you register to a bank, like they will ask you your phone number, and if you go to a member loyalty program, they ask you phone number. And then when you go to other places, they will ask you mostly the data is also phone number. So telecommunication is also like one of the key major industry that requires a very high tech cybersecurity that we can have. And if the financial service and telco industries are being attacked as a cybercrime, it will of course like decreasing down or reduce down the confidence coming from the society whether they should go with the digital products or not, because that actually one of the key thing that the customers or us can feel safe when we have the digital products.
Well, that's probably the end of our talk. I'll just make a high-level summary of what we have discussed so far, and not only from Andre but also from our participants. I would like to say thank you very much for everyone who joined, also the one who have shared insight and also asking questions. Okay, so we have discussed how the pandemic has changed business and economy. Okay, so the workforce start working from home. There is a change in operation. I think in Riri's example, how she now sells insurance, and then a supply chain that is affected due to lockdown in some areas, and also logistic limitation. Okay, so that's from the side of business, and then from consumers' landscape, it's also changing. It's because of their income is affected by the pandemic, and also their behavior is changed. They have to stay at home, and now they get used to buy everything online. Okay, and also maybe because of that, business have to change or rethink about not only their offering but also their target customers. Okay, so the main question was: is digitalization is the solution? Okay, so the keyword that I put here, it's urgent. Okay, and it should be top priority. Okay, but it helps. I think it's from what Andre has shared and also all of you have shared, it's not the only solution. You have to rethink your business, rethink your offering, but digitalization certainly helps. And in terms of what some questions that you need to assess before you decide to adopt digitalization, remember, I really like when Andre said digitalization or technology is a journey. It's not just like one-time fix for now, but I think the company may use it for a long time. So adopting technology digitalization needs careful thinking. And some key questions that Andre has suggested is assess your needs. Okay, what is your current situation? Is your issue can be addressed by new technology? Is the technology important and urgent? Okay, whether the technology is still relevant for the next 5 to 10 years? Okay, are there any other options? After that, businesses have to think about the cost and also the benefit. And then, not only that, if they decide to adopt, it requires an effective planning, how to implement the technology, when and how. Okay, how long the implementation take place, and so on. adopting digitalization also requires change in terms of leadership and culture, also skillful individuals. And for those of you who are students who are still studying, Andre has suggested that you have to to survive, you have to have at least these three skills, and those are first cognitive thinking, the second one system skills, and the last one complex problem solving. I am interested when he said that, well, mastering cloud can do programming is just mastering a tool, okay, but you have to have the skills that the three skills that he mentioned, because it can be applied in any areas or in any role that you will have once you have your job. Okay, I think that's all for the talk for today. I would really like to say thank you to Andre. Thank you for spending your time and your insight with us. We are happy to see you again. I would like to say thank you to participants who are joining here, also who have shared their insights, their experience, also ask questions. Special thanks to Dr. Go. Okay, and also our alumni. It's really good to see you guys. We have been away for like months, and it's nice to hear your voice and also to discuss with you again. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for students, and I hope that you find this talk useful, and we hope to see you in the next series. Thank you very much. Bye bye, everyone. I'm gonna
thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. Bye bye.